Welcome back to Required Reading, where we're continuing our read of the novelization of the movie Gremlins by George Gipe. This is Chapter 7. Lynn Peltzer always felt an extra twinge of nervousness around Christmas time. Hadn't always been that way. Growing up in a suburb of Pittsburgh, she had always been a fairly normal child of a middle-class family. Christmas excited her because she usually received some new clothes and a few special things. In addition, she enjoyed picking out presents for other people, anticipating their joy as they opened them. Though not especially religious, she always enjoyed the holiday because it seemed symbolic of new hope, kindness, and generosity. Not until she met Rand Peltzer did she begin to associate Christmas with danger. Neither he nor she had intended it to happen that way. Nearly a quarter century before, when they were married, both of them had had high expectations that someday Rand would have his face on the cover of Time magazine. He had not gone to college, but when he patented a simple device that made it easier for laundries to locate their customers' clothes, he seemed to be on his way. Taking a smooth-talking friend's advice, Rand quit his job in the sporting goods department of a large store and invested in himself, as he put it. His lifelong desire to be another Thomas Edison, and to that end he forthwith applied himself. The money ran out soon. Most of the inventions gathered dust, and eventually he was forced to find a job selling other people's wares. But Rand never really gave up. Working in his spare time, he continued to conceive and construct new instruments to benefit society. The problem was that they were usually tested first on Lynn, and almost always as Christmas presents. The first year, Lynn received an automatic, painless, ear-piercing device for use in the home. It sent Lynn to the hospital emergency room Christmas night, and it was well after New Year's before she could remove the bandages from her earlobes. The next year, an improved fingernail polish remover caused something strange and crusty to grow on her nails and remain there for several months. Other devices, such as pineapple parers, automatic shoe buffers, cleaning poles capable of reaching anywhere, and fish cleaners, all came neatly wrapped at Christmas, were duly tried, failed, and recalled for improvements. Most, fortunately, never saw the light of day again. A good sport, Rand shook his head and endured the jokes generated by his failures, but the light bulb of inspiration never left its permanent spot above his head. Lynn wondered what it would be this year. Her wonder was not alloyed with dread, but with uncertainty. It would be nice to prepare herself if it was possible. The real problem, she supposed, was that she simply couldn't tell Rand to just stop inventing things and trying them out on her. She loved the big guy, and if he ever gave up that quirky habit, it would kill her. Such feelings of love, however, did not cause her to flinch less as the annual day of present-giving approached. "It'll be all right," she said to herself out loud, adding optimistically, "Last year was easy with the tomato dicer. We had the ceiling cleaned in minutes, washed our faces, and that was that." Removing the meatloaf from the oven, she caught a glimpse of herself in the glass door. With her styled gray hair and face that was marred only by character lines, no sense calling them wrinkles just yet, she was remarkably well preserved for 47. She was reasonably content with life and well aware of the fact that whatever excitement was due her had probably happened already. But she often wondered how things would have turned out if she had been the breadwinner instead of Rand. He was tenacious, but she was a fighter. He traveled circuitous routes. She bored straight ahead. Sometimes Lynn wondered how she would have handled herself if, not having been born several decades too soon, she had been drafted into the army and asked to fight for her country. Surprisingly, the idea intrigued rather than repelled or frightened her. "Too late now," she said, looking at the clock. Billy was already late for dinner, even considering the fact that he had to walk home. As for Rand, there was no telling when he would walk in. A moment later, she heard the front door open, and a beat after that, the clatter of an object hitting the floor of the living room. Those crossed swords again, Lynn thought with a sigh, putting the meatloaf on the counter and moving to the hallway. Billy was in the process of picking up the swords and restoring them to the shaky holder, which had been designed by Rand in a moment of inspiration. "Anybody can drive a nail into the wall and hold up those swords," he had said. "It takes a genius to create a decorative holder that doesn't damage the plaster." No doubt about it, Lynn mused as she watched Billy delicately restore the balance of power against the wall. That holder is beautiful and doesn't hurt the wall. But it sure makes a racket when one or both of those swords hit the floor, especially when it happens in the middle of the night. "Hi, Mom." Billy smiled, taking off his jacket, aiming it for a chair, then taking it to the hall closet. "Dinner's ready," she said. "Okay," he said. "I'll be there in a minute." "Before you go—" He waited, framed in the doorway. Her expression told him that something was wrong. Not tragic, but definitely unpleasant. "I got a call from Mrs. Deagle this afternoon," Lynn began. "Oh." Billy walked to the kitchen. "I know she's a terrible person, Billy, but it seems you go out of your way to make her angry." "No, I don't, Mom. She's just mean and out to get me. She'd like to get everybody." "She says you broke her ceramic snowman." "It was broken already. Barney must have bumped it." "Did she tell you I saved one of her cats from being run over by a car?" "No." "See? She only tells you the bad stuff." Nevertheless, the sound of the front door opening interrupted their conversation, which would have been drowned away by Rand's booming voice. "Silent night, holy night," he sang, giving the old song an uncharacteristically upbeat tempo. Fa la 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 la. "Let's not talk about it now," Lynn said softly. "Not in front of your father." "We still have a minute," Billy said, smiling, "while he puts the swords back." As if in echo, there followed the sound of the front door closing and a crash of metal a moment later. Rand's singing immediately became louder, undercut by the sound of the sword being returned to the shaky position against the wall. "Sleep in heavenly peace, fa la 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 la." Smiling and ebullient, Rand entered the kitchen, his arms loaded with packages. After putting them carefully on the kitchen table, he gave Lynn a kiss, Billy a hug, and Barney a pat on the head. "Have a nice trip?" Lynn asked. "Not bad," he replied. "Miracle, the company that makes the kitchen companion, might be interested in the bathroom buddy. It's got one or two problems I have to iron out, though." Lynn suspected there wouldn't be a sale. They would muddle through, though, however, and Christmas wasn't the time to worry about long-range economics. You could drive yourself crazy. It was nice having Rand home, and for the moment that was all that mattered. He picked a package off the table and thrust it at her. Automatically, Lynn flinched, then took it. "It's just a poinsettia," Rand said. "Not a real present. You'll get that later." "Oh, thank you," she murmured, putting the potted flower on the sink. "It's beautiful." "What's in the other packages?" Billy asked. Rand walked back to the table. "These are presents for you and your mom that can't be opened until Christmas," he answered. "This one can't wait." He gently lifted the burlap-covered box. "What is it?" Billy asked. "Is it alive?" "Turn off the lights," Rand said. Then realizing that the kitchen's light came solely from a bright overhead incandescent lamp, he shook his head. "Never mind. It'll be easier if we go in the living room." "He must have gotten me a pet bat," Billy laughed as they left the kitchen. Placing the cage on the coffee table, Rand surveyed the living room lighting. "Still too bright," he said. "Where's that light dimmer I made?" Lynn swallowed a bit nervously. "I put it in the drawer," she explained. "It was making sounds all by itself, and when it was out, the lights kept blinking on and off." "You don't know how to work it," Rand said, reaching into the drawer. "Never mind," Billy said. "I'll turn the lights down." Rand waved him back into his chair. Listen, he announced in a soft but firm tone. I go to the trouble of making these things so we can relax. They're labor-saving devices, see? What's the point of having them if you keep on doing things the old-fashioned way? With that, he pointed the flashlight device that he had located at the nearest lamp. Shattering with a loud popping noise as if it had been the target of an unseen sniper, the bulb died instantly, its remains tinkling onto the end table, which was suddenly gripped by darkness. That's no problem, Rand murmured. The bulb was about to go anyway. I'll clean it up later, Lynn soothed. First, let's see what's in that package. Yeah, Billy seconded. This'll be the first time I've ever gotten a present that glows in the dark. Kneeling next to the end table, he reached out and gently lifted the burlap. The creature was predominantly brown and white, about 8 inches tall, with long, pointed ears and huge, brown, expressive eyes. Standing upright like a human being, its body was covered with fluffy fur, except for bare spots at the ends of the ears, the extensions of its 4-fingered hands, and a quadrilateral space for a moist pug nose and wide mouth resembling that of an elderly gentleman enjoying the luxury of not wearing his dentures. A low noise emanated from the animal, something haunting, but softly urgent. What is it? Billy asked, amazed. Your new pet, his father replied. It looks like something from Australia, Lynn said, moving closer to the cage. Or Red China. They have a lot of animals that can't get their visas. Barney looked sideways at his new companion, backed away a few steps. It looked so soft and gentle, but from dealing with squirrels, he knew that the cute ones had the most devilish tricks. A low growl rose involuntarily from his chest. Come on, Barney, Billy laughed. Be a good boy. He's not going to hurt you. Returning his attention to the strange animal, Billy put his finger gingerly through the holes in the box to touch it. Surprisingly, the creature did not flinch or cower. Its fur was warm and downy, like that of a Persian cat. Where'd you find him? Billy asked. Some old junk store in Chinatown. Had to lay down a bundle for him, too. Lynn looked closely at the creature. Did he come with papers? She asked. Rand shook his head. Well, suppose he has rabies or something, his wife persisted. Doesn't he need shots? Is he house-trained? I guess we'll find out soon enough, Rand muttered. Honey, I didn't have time to check that out. I was worried they wouldn't let me have him on the plane. As it was, I had to smuggle him aboard in my garment bag. Don't worry, he'll be all right. But Lynn was not assured so easily. What if he's some kind of rat or something? She sniffed. Billy, tickling Gizmo's chin, looked askance at his mother. No, he's too cute to be a rat, he said. Lynn shrugged. He's cute, all right. I sure hope he's not carrying something. And speaking of that, how can we be sure he's a he? The Chinese fella told me it's a he, Rand replied. A he what? Billy asked. Didn't he say what kind of animal he is? Yeah, he's a mogwai. What's that? I don't know. Something in Chinese, I think. Anyway, we'll call him Gizmo, okay? Why not? Billy said. That's as good as anything, and since we don't know what he is, it sure fits. Gizmo, more at ease now around his new family, had started to hum in his unearthly falsetto tone. The three were delighted and amused by the sound, Billy breaking into applause. Only the four-legged creature remained aloof and in the background. Well, Merry Christmas, Rand said. Billy gave him a hug. Thanks a lot, Dad, he said, smiling. It's a really wonderful present. Glad you like it, son. When she saw Billy lift the creature from the box and cuddle it to his chest, Lynn couldn't resist the urge to capture the moment on film. Reaching quickly into the drawer, she brought out her Instamatic camera, slid back a few feet until she had Gizmo and Billy neatly framed, then glanced out of the viewfinder. Okay, smile, she said, as Gizmo reached up to lick Billy's cheek, Lynn pressed the button. As the flashbulb went off, Gizmo let out a wild shriek, threw himself over Billy's shoulder, and whining piteously, scrambled beneath the sofa. "What happened?" Lynn asked. "I forgot to tell you," Rand replied. "Little fellow's scared of bright lights. That's why I turned the lights down. But I forgot about the flashbulb." As he talked, he fumbled beneath the sofa until he found Gizmo's feet. "Come on, boy," he soothed. "It's okay. It'll be all right. We won't do that again. Promise." Gentle urging finally calmed Gizmo to the point where he allowed himself to be slid from the cool, dark comfort beneath the sofa. His humming had stopped, though, and he shivered slightly. "Still a little scared, I guess," Billy said. He stroked Gizmo's head gently. "I should have told you about the light," Rand said. "There's a couple other rules to remember about this guy. At least that's what the Chinese boys said. Number 2 is to keep him away from water. And number 3 is never let him eat after midnight." Lynn broke into laughter. "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard," she said. "What difference could it make when he eats?" "Don't ask me," Rand replied. "I'm just telling you what they said to me." Lynn stood up. "Okay, well, we'll go along with that. I just hope he doesn't have to eat filet mignon every night." "No, he eats everything," Rand said. "No restriction on that. As a matter of fact, the boy's grandfather said he even ate cardboard, that white stuff they pack boxes with, and a rubber washer. He probably has a stomach like the town incinerator." "He ate a washer?" Billy repeated. "That's what the man said." Billy reached into the magazine rack adjoining the sofa and found a crumpled piece of cardboard. Rolling it into a ball, he offered it to the furry creature. "Here, Gizmo," he said. "Try this for a snack." Gizmo sniffed at the pulpy white mass. Many years before, on a whim, he had decided to humor the Chinese man by eating a tasteless object. He had enjoyed seeing the old man's pleasure, and fortunately it was a pleasure that was not perpetrated on him very often. That was because the Chinese gentleman had a sense of responsibility and self-control. Rapidly assessing his new situation, Gizmo doubted seriously that these people would be able to restrict themselves quite as well. If he gave in to them now, before long they would have him eating every insipid piece of junk they could find, just to have a laugh. No, clearly this was the time to train these new owners and train them right. Turning aside, he refused to have anything to do with the cardboard. "I guess he's not hungry," Billy said. "Either that or the Chinese man was pulling your leg." Lynn returned from the kitchen holding a small slice of meatloaf in the palm of her hand. "Let's see what he does with this," she said. Gizmo sniffed, quivered with anticipation a moment, then snapped up the delicious morsel and forced himself to chew slowly so as to savor it. By the time he swallowed the mouthful, his contented hum had returned. The family seemed pleased. Gizmo was pleased too. At least, with this group, he'd never have to swallow another petroleum-based product again.